Hey guys, Brandon Zerby here, and back when I completed my undergraduate degree when I was 21 years old, I entered the real world with $90,000 of student debt. And apparently that didn't intimidate me too much because I ended up buying a new car and went back for my graduate degree. In total, I racked up over $150,000 of debt, and I knew that I not only needed to become financially literate, but I needed to put together a rock solid plan to get back on track. This not only led me to the world of minimalism, where I've cut my spending down to only things that make me healthier and happier, but it also introduced me to the world of financial literacy, independence, and investing. And this plan that I put together and still implement not only allowed me to pay off $150,000 of debt to become completely debt-free, but it's also allowed me to accumulate $300,000 of investments. And although I've detailed this 7-step plan on my website, today I'm going to go over the exact details of how that plan has played out, including all of my investments. All of this to show what's possible with a plan, consistency, discipline, not buying Starbucks coffees, only wearing a single pair of jeans, and not impressing my female dates with 10-year-old Nikes? They're not that bad, are they? But hey, those are the second most memorable Olympic Nike sneakers of all time. Cut me some slack. Anyways, let's get into this plan that I still execute today and where all my investments are. Let's get into it. First, I've always felt it's important to have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Now, you might be thinking that $150,000 of debt is already an emergency, which it is, but I didn't want the situation to get any worse from any unforeseen circumstances popping up. So at that time, I ended up saving about $5,000 and never touched it unless it was an emergency. Now today, I still have an emergency fund, but I've raised that to about $10,000 and just let that sit in a savings account. And although inflation is at about 5% this year and savings accounts are paying about almost no interest, that account is losing value every year. But hey, it's a small portion of my overall savings, and savings accounts are still the safest investment today, so it's a great place to put your emergency fund. Second, I had to take advantage of my employer's 401k match. Now, technically, I've worked in the public and nonprofit sectors my whole life, so I've either had a 403b or 457, but they're all the same thing, really. This is a retirement account that your employer can offer, and if you're lucky, match a portion of your contributions. So if it's available, it's free money. Say your employer matches 3% of your salary, then I would make sure I was contributing 3% of my salary into that 401k, knowing that my employer was gonna match those contributions. It's like a 100% rate of return, and I was not gonna pass on that. So after my emergency fund was funded, I then contributed the remainder of my paycheck enough to get that employer 401k match. And I still do this today. So if you give me about 2 minutes, then I'll go into exactly how much I contribute and where exactly those contributions are going. It could be 3 minutes or 4 minutes. It's kind of hard to estimate because I mess up a lot and then the editing takes a while, but I will get there, I promise. Third, after my emergency fund was fully funded and I was contributing enough to get my 401k match, then I put the remainder of my paycheck into paying off all the existing debt that I had. And this step was pretty demoralizing. Work hard for 2 weeks, get a paycheck, and then send that straight off to the lender. It was as if my life were owned by someone else and I wouldn't see the profits of my labor for years. It sucked for a while. It really did. But it lit a fire under me to never get into this situation again. Now I have a few separate posts where I've detailed exactly how I paid off that debt. I'm gonna throw a link down in the description for some of those posts if you're interested in checking that out. But essentially, I just reduced my spending to as little as possible and then focused on increasing my income each year. I then paid off the debt with the highest interest rate first. This is the avalanche method because it's mathematically the quickest way to pay off your debts. But if you aren't as laser focused as I am, then you might wanna check out the snowball method where you start off with the smallest loan amount first because then you can start to gain momentum. And there's really not a whole lot of difference between the two, so just find one that works for you and just get to executing. But anyways, yes, I did end up paying off all $150,000 of debt, and I'm still debt-free today. This was probably the most rewarding step out of all of them. Fourth, I started maxing out a Roth IRA. This is an individual retirement account where you contribute after-tax dollars. After you pay taxes up front when contributing, then your investments are allowed to grow tax-free, and withdrawals are tax-free once you reach retirement. Another benefit of the Roth IRA is you can withdraw your initial contributions without any sort of penalties before you turn 60. Now, I don't recommend you do this, and I don't do this, but it's nice to have that flexibility if the situation were to ever come up where I needed it. Honestly, I'm kind of smitten on the Roth IRA. It is a lovely account. I've been maxing out this Roth IRA for a few years now, and it's reached a valuation of about $115,000. All that money in my IRA is invested into an ETF that goes by the ticker symbol VTI. It's just a Vanguard index fund that covers a mix of stocks within the US stock market. It's a low-cost, effortless way to invest in the United States stock market without having to really worry about maintenance because it's already a diversified account. So as soon as I make those contributions into my Roth IRA, then I invest them immediately into VTI, and then I completely forget about it. But hopefully I don't forget about it when I'm 60. Fifth, after maxing out my Roth IRA, then I move on to my HSA. And HSA is just a health savings account that can cover medical expenses both now and in the future. If you have a high deductible health insurance plan, then you'll usually have an HSA available to you. If you have some other type of health insurance plan, then you may have an FSA available to you, which isn't as great as an HSA, but it is something. With the HSA, you can contribute and save up money year over year that's going to cover your future medical expenses. It also saves you taxes on contributions, growth, and withdrawals. This is called the triple tax takeaway. No, it's not. I just made that phrase up. On top of those triple tax savings and covering future medical expenses, an HSA can also act as a retirement account once you turn over 65 in case you don't have future medical expenses. This leaves you more money in retirement for those trips to Disney. For the grandkids, obviously. I just started maxing out this account a few years ago, so right now my value for the HSA sits at about $9,000. So I just have $1,500 of that sitting in cash in the account to cover any deductibles throughout the year, and then I have the remaining $7,500 invested in a ticker symbol of VNQ. This is just another Vanguard index fund that covers real estate investment trusts within the United States and just increases my exposure to the real estate market. Again, as soon as my money hits that HSA, it gets immediately invested into VNQ, and then I never think about it again. 6, after my Roth IRA and HSA are maxed out, then I return back to the 401k. The more money that you contribute to your 401k, the more money you're gonna save on taxes, and this is gonna allow you to accrue more money over time in that investment account. And while I didn't start maxing out my 401k until a couple of years ago, I did contribute whatever I had left out of my paycheck into my 401k until my income grew enough so that I could start maxing it out. That means I'm contributing $19,500 a year plus my employer's match into the account, and right now its value sits at about $89,000. I have a separate post detailing exactly how I picked my 401k investments, but really it's not too much different than how I've handled my Roth IRA. 90% of my account is invested in a low-cost index fund that covers the United States stock market, and then the remaining 10% is invested in another index fund that covers the US bond market. Those respective ticker symbols are SVSPX and VBTLX, in case you wanted to look them up. But really, it kind of just depends on what your plan offers. Again, nothing fancy here, just automated investments into diversified low-cost index funds that I just set and forget. So if you're expecting something crazy and fun here, then you probably got something a little bit boring. But if you were expecting boring, then maybe you got something a little crazy and fun? I don't know, maybe. Maybe not. And finally, step 7, after all the tax advantaged accounts have been maxed out, then I can invest the remainder money wherever I want. And this is the fun part. Whether I want to save up for a down payment on a house, or invest into more stocks using a brokerage account, or dip my toes into the cryptocurrency world, or even buy a CryptoPunk NFT for $500,000. Okay, I haven't done that last one, but I thought about it. And what I realized is that my entire net worth still isn't enough to buy a 24 by 24 pixel digital image. How you doing? Keep it moving. Anyways, I have $80,000 invested into a brokerage account using the app Robinhood. $70,000 of that is invested in a low-cost index fund that mirrors the 500 largest companies in the United States stock market. Specifically, its ticker symbol is VOO, and it's really not that much different than the other Vanguard fund I mentioned earlier, VTI. They perform about the same year over year. Besides that, I have about $6,000 invested in Bitcoin and about $4,000 invested in Ethereum. And I did a post on cryptocurrencies a few months ago, and really my opinion on them hasn't changed that much. I think it's a speculative bet that really shouldn't take up more than 3 to 5% of my portfolio. Still, no one really understands where cryptocurrency is going, either in the short term or the long term, but it's a bet that I'm willing to take, and I don't plan on selling it anytime soon. So here's hoping for a trip to the moon. So here are my final thoughts. My hope is that by detailing the exact steps I use to become completely debt-free and how and where my money is invested will provide more transparency to the personal finance space. Maybe it'll make you more comfortable with investing, maybe it'll spark your interest to learn more about the personal finance space, or maybe it's just interesting to see what someone else does with their money. Mostly stocks and not shoes. I still love you, 10-year-old Nike Olympic Flyknits. Anyways, hope this was helpful, as excelling in the personal finance space can really allow you to live both healthier and happier. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm just a dude writing blog posts in his bedroom on a Friday night and then staring at a camera in his bedroom on a Saturday morning. So this isn't investment advice. Feel free to do your own research. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel. If you did like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. It not only helps out the channel, but lets me know what kind of content I should be producing. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll be sure to answer all of those. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lastly, I offer a free health kit, which has my top 10 sleep tips, 1 Whole Foods plant-based recipe, and a mobility workout that you can stream on any device. That is free. There's a link down in the description for that. It also gets you sent up to my weekly newsletter, where I provide the 3 most important things that I've read, watched, or listened to within the past week. All of that completely free. Link down in the description if you're interested in that. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Here, let me put them on so you get a better idea. Right? They're not that bad. They're decent. You'd date a guy who wore these, wouldn't you? I mean, at least once. You'd probably come back for a second date, I would guess. I don't know. Who knows?